Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Thank you to Zolt Montessori for emailing and encouraging me to put together this episode. Today's episode takes us to a location 8 miles west of the town of West Yellowstone, to a trail called Buttermilk Trail. The geography here is high elevation, with nearby Bald Peak breaking the 10,000-foot high mark, and the valleys are consistently above 6,500 feet. Common plants in this area are pine, fir, and spruce trees, which cover the land like a giant green army that sways in every breeze. Along the creeks and lakes you will find willow bushes that hide mule deer and whitetail deer, elk, moose, and even a few mountain goats on the high peaks. The common predators here include wolves, cougars, black bears, and a rapidly growing and spreading population of grizzly bears. If this area sounds familiar, it is probably because this will be the third grizzly bear attack we will cover within a 30-minute car drive from each other. The attack on Todd and Carl Mock happened very near this location and begs the question, why are all these attacks happening just over the park boundary? Amy Adamson was 48 years old and was a former English teacher. She had left her profession to backpack across the nation and use her experiences to write a book she planned on titling Walking Out, One Teacher's Reflections on Walking Out of the Classroom to Walk America. Amy was very active and in amazing shape. She was an avid hiker and ran marathons from time to time. Her hometown was Darby, Kansas, which is quite a contrast to where she was spending her summer. She was working at Yellowstone National Park as a seasonal employee and had fallen in love with the area the moment she laid eyes on it. The Buttermilk Trail was one of her favorite places to go for a jog early in the morning, and she routinely came here to get away. The trail is a favorite for hikers, horseback riders, and people driving off-road vehicles, so she knew she would have people around her as she jogged. She wore her favorite running shoes and wasn't in the regular practice of carrying bear spray on her when she hit the trail. She didn't pack a firearm with her either. Just before 8 a.m. on July 22nd of 2023, Amy arrived at the parking lot near the trailhead. Nearby there was an RV park and private campground packed with plenty of visitors and around 20 cabins almost always rented to full capacity. Amy hiked to the trailhead and started a slow-paced jog. She quickly climbed only a few hundred yards when something tragic she hadn't anticipated happened. Maybe 15 minutes behind Amy was another hiker who had just begun to climb the same trail. We will protect this hiker's name out of respect for their privacy. As the hiker traveled only a few hundred yards up the trail, he came across Amy's body lying just off the trail. She was clearly dead, and there was evidence of a brief struggle around her. The hiker could also see fresh grizzly tracks from a large and a small bear. The hiker immediately left the area to get help. Investigators quickly made their way to the location reported by the hiker. They saw the tracks of a sow bear and her smaller cub, but a search for a food cache, daybed, or the presence of the bears yielded nothing. Wardens from the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks cooperated with the investigators of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services to investigate the attack. Along with the bear track evidence at the site, the investigators stated that Amy had apparently died from wounds inflicted by a bear attack. The coroner later announced she had died from loss of blood, which usually takes at least several minutes unless a major blood vessel is severed, which can cause a person to bleed to death in a matter of seconds to minutes. The investigators also noticed that Amy was hiking or jogging alone. They deemed the attack a defensive attack given the bears consumed no part of Amy's body and did not cache her corpse for consumption later. The bears also immediately departed the area and offered no defense of her corpse. Officials announced an emergency closure of the Buttermilk Trail system to remain closed until August 25th this summer. All human entry is prohibited and enforced by rangers. Wildlife agents placed culvert traps out in the area and hope to catch the sow and her cub. Time is of the essence in catching the bear involved because as the days pass, the odds of catching a different bear than the offending one increase. The DNA evidence on the bear's claws will only be viable for a few days, after which being certain they have trapped the attacking sow will be impossible due to the degradation of the DNA. A trail camera placed by the agents did capture a grizzly sow with 2 cubs on the night of the attack, but no further sightings of the trio have occurred since. Searches by aircraft yielded no sightings, no evidence, and no hope of tracking down the bears. Authorities have not decided exactly what action should be taken against the sow and her cubs. Killing the bear would eliminate a bear that has killed a person, but she was also only doing what sow bears are supposed to do, defending her cubs from a perceived threat. The other option is to relocate the bear to a more remote area, but this solution also has its trade-offs. If they relocate the sow and her cubs, she will be considered an interloper on the territory of any bears already claiming that area. She may be pushed out of that territory and back toward human population centers. This brings up a topic we have discussed briefly on other episodes on this channel. Bear researchers have reported that sow bears are increasingly choosing to move their cubs right into human-occupied areas, just like the Buttermilk Trailhead area. Places surrounded by human development and activity tend to drive away the dangerous boar bears that prey on young bear cubs. The sows that do this tend to be larger in size and have more cubs due to the availability of food, safety, human tolerance, and even adoration of their presence. The co-owner of the West Yellowstone Rodeo and Creekside Trail Rides, Laura Skinner, states that horseback ride tours have not dropped off due to the report of Amy's mauling and death. She states that people who live in the area are used to seeing them and are watchful for them. She says that her guide service simply sends a rider ahead of all of their riding tours to make sure there are no bears they might run into on the ride. She continues by saying that with all of the activity of authorities trying to find the sow and her cubs, she is sure they are far from the area. My experience with grizzlies in the area is equally alarming. In the fall of 2022, both of my sons drew antlered moose tags in a hunting unit adjacent to Yellowstone National Park. My family has hunted there for elk, deer, and moose for over 45 years, and moose hunting here used to be more like grocery shopping. Moose could be found easily, and populations were very high in density. Last fall, we hunted for 3 weeks over the months of September, October, and November, and spoke with several elk hunters who had run into bears while stalking their prey. We noticed grizzly bear tracks in the fresh fallen snow on roads. At one point, we were driving along the Mesa Falls Scenic Byway, which merges with Highway 20 and continues to the town of Island Park. I noticed a small hollow with about 20 pine trees growing out of it about 100 yards off the road, and decided I would walk out to those trees to relieve myself. To our east was a forest of pine trees, and on the west side of the road was sagebrush. Less than 1 mile across the brush, we could see Highway 20. Just as I got ready to get out and walk to the pine stand, I saw a big dark brown object that resembled a dog sitting on its haunches. I was sure it was a stump because what on earth would a grizzly bear be doing in the sagebrush between 2 highways? As I watched in amazement, the bear stood up and slowly walked parallel to our position on the byway and toward the south. It was walking toward a small sawmill that we observed in operation earlier that day. My first thought was that the sawyer may still be running his equipment and would be completely oblivious that the bear was headed toward him. We watched as the bear slowly disappeared and reappeared as it ambled through the slight folds in the sagebrush, getting closer to the sawmill. We turned our truck around and drove the 1/4 mile to the sawmill and searched for the man who was running it. He was not there, which put us at ease. We watched as the grizzly walked toward the backside of the sawmill site. We drove around to the back to watch it for a while. The ground had only a few feet of low folds in it and only sagebrush for cover. That massive grizzly bear disappeared within 50 yards of us, and we could not find it again despite searching from the safety of our truck for 30 minutes. Grizzly populations in the U.S. Rocky Mountains have grown quickly, and bears have been showing up in surprising locations not previously known as their habitat. Since 2010, grizzlies have killed 9 people in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem area. This area is not the only area that has seen a sharp uptick in bear attacks. This year alone has had fatal or serious bear attacks in Arizona, North Carolina, and Colorado, each of which are already or will be episodes on our channel. After hearing the details of Amy's fatal grizzly attack and the other information I have presented, I have a few questions for you. Do you think Amy's familiarity with the place she loved so much prevented her from bringing bear spray on her run? Do you think she would have even had time to dispense her bear spray if she had it? Was her attack a matter of the wrong time, wrong place? Would you have expected to run into a sow and her cubs right next to an RV campground and occupied cabins? Why do bears view humans as a threat but still feel comfortable near human populations? What will you do to ensure your safety when you venture into bear country in the future? I will gladly read and respond to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.